Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I feel honored to be here on such a podium, sharing the dais with such luminaries here, and the topic being so relevant, that is to make in India, and of course R&D, and in the defense context. I'll confine myself to my views concerning electronic segment, that to defense electronics. And since as rightly put by the chair, that is Dr. Bala, that I will confine myself to about 10 minutes to share some of the thoughts about what is R&D in this perspective to Indian defense, and that too in the electronic segment. What are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and very briefly on what BEL intends to do or what it has done in this segment. Basically, what I wanted to convey only two messages here, although there are a number of slides and I won't be able to use all those charts to assist me. The two basic messages are, what are we doing as R&D in defense electronics? What is the purpose? So if we are setting ourselves a goal that we need to become self-reliant, totally indigenous, and with the ultimate goal to become a net exporter of defense equipment and defense services, then that is one aspiration. But there is also another aspiration which is against actually a protection against the criticism that we in the R&D community in India face today, that why are we importing 70% of our requirements? That is because R&D has not performed. Now, if that is the message, then we need to take a set of actions under the research and development which tries to reduce this net imports. So both of them call for different strategies. The second message is actually, if that is the definition of R&D, R&D when it is measured or the metrics of performance of R&D is taken on the whole context, people actually expect R&D to deliver something in terms of product designs or revenues or services against a requirement that is just around the corner. Now, if you are expecting R&D to solve today's problems, you should have started your R&D much before. So this is an R&D which is driven by the requirements. There is another perception that if you go down to basics and say, I should have done this, but I do not have certain competencies in this country or in this undertaking or in the business or in DRDO, then I need to take certain actions to improve my R&D capability based on competence. So these R&D plans are driven by competence gap management. The third perspective is policy driven. Now, as a country or as individuals and organizations in this country, if we set ourselves a goal that business apart, if we need to develop something for far future, then there has to be a policy-driven decision that should nurture and create an ecosystem of R&D. So this is policy-driven R&D. Now, these three segments, although they appear similar, but they are distinctly different. That is to address the business segment that is upcoming. That is to address the competence match, which is we are lacking. The third is to actually have a long-term vision and goal so that it is driven by policies. So in this context, what I wanted to share was actually the Indian defense. Of course, all of you know that it's a huge market and growing very fast. And then there are the challenges here are actually the defense procurement. Again, pardon me if I am confining myself to electronic segment, and it is actually moving from a platform-based solution to a network-centric solution. So whatever we look at as business opportunities or competencies or policies have to be looked under the background of what the Indian defense requirements are today, which are driven from platform changes to network-centric changes. Similarly, the acquisition processes, as you all know, are very long drawn out for various reasons. Gestation periods are very high, and of course, the technology gaps are so big. And why they are big is basically in defense electronics. Technologies which are important are closely guarded. Nobody wants to share those technologies. So the only way is to actually build them, bits and bytes. So this causes a lot of challenges. Now, this is just to show that cumulatively there is going to be huge business in not only defense capital budgets or the budgets which have been announced. Now, how to plan out our activities also, there are various documents or various sources of information which are available to us to say where we need to put resources. There are something like LTIPP or the SCAPS programs, or for example TPCR. So these are possible sources of information where we can look to improve our capabilities. So of course, as it has been very aptly demonstrated in the morning also, our procurement process is itself defined by DPP. Between the buy global and the buy Indian, there are various ways of making it buy and make with various programs. Now, there is a DRDO which has been doing good work, and they have been addressing a lot of technologies. We as defense PSUs also have a role to play to take on something from DRDO and convert it into a saleable prototype or a technology to the end user. So there is an Indian industry, both in DPSUs or PSUs, and ably demonstrated now by the private sector, where the Indian industry is vibrant. But then together we need to deliver what Indian defense requirements come about. In all this context, now this new thrust on Make in India obviously is to achieve self-reliance by indigenous technology and product development, meeting the most important thing here is the defense quality and reliability standards. So this is what is actually differentiating us from the other sectors of electronics, that if I have to use technologies derived out of other segments like telecom or consumer electronics to make it reliable and amenable to Indian defense requirements, there is a huge amount of work both in research and development and production. So these are the challenges. Now I will skip all these slides to just come about to what BEL is doing. So we are a multi-product, multi-organizational based organization where we have been trying to address various product lines like radars, communication, electronic warfare, anti-submarine warfare, electro-optics, and so on. And in each of them, there are contributions made by development, research, and of course, quality manufacturing and reliability. So the message again we want to convey from the DPSU perspective is that today we outsource quite a lot of things to an ecosystem that has been created in the private sector, and we have been sourcing components as well as services, not just small jobs, but high-tech components from the set of partners that we have built across in various domains. So basically indigenization through in-house R&D calls for putting in place, first of all, a framework and a structure that nurtures R&D. There has to be a budget, there has to be a policy directive to encourage this kind of work, and of course there should be an infrastructure. But most importantly, it's not the money or the infrastructure that matters, it's a trained, skilled people who are tasked continuously so that the infrastructure is used properly for delivering what we need. I will skip all these slides for want of time. Maybe during the discussion we'll touch upon all these. What are the opportunities, whether in hardware or in software or in system design, where as an ecosystem that is being built between the public, private, academic institutions will all contribute to improving the R&D capabilities of this country. So I will not go through these conclusions. I will end here, and probably we'll touch upon these points in our discussion.